Hi, I'm Brandon Rhiness. I am the writer and director of this short film, I Am Not a Robot. I decided to do a commentary on it just to share my thoughts on the film. If you want to watch the original without me talking over it, I'll share a link in the description. But otherwise, let's get to this. I'm going to be starting and stopping it a lot, so bear with me. As for this title, I got the idea, as some people have already figured out, from the little CAPTCHA things that you have to click on that say, I am not a robot. So I just saw that and it kind of led me to coming up with this concept. So let's jump into it. So this short film was originally part of what we called Horror Weekend. I think it was around 2017 we did something called Horror Day, where we shot 5 short horror films in one day. And then for this one, a few years later, we did Horror Weekend, where we shot 5 longer short films over a long weekend, a period of 3 days. I think it actually ended up being like 3.5 or something, and this was one of those. And technically, it's not a horror; it's more sci-fi, but it's still kind of a genre film. So I figured that I'd include it because it's maybe horror adjacent. So here we have Elizabeth Chamberlain playing the role of Aurora. Of course, you'll recognize Elizabeth as Mildred from Grotesque and as Genesis from the I'm Haunted series. And she's also been in a whole lot of other projects I've done, so she's become a very familiar face, and she's always wonderful to work with, and she did a great job here as usual.
Aurora.
That's Gay Andrews. She was the angel doctor at the end of the first Grotesque movie and at the beginning of Grotesque 2. She was nice enough to play the doctor for us. You'll probably notice a few familiar faces. Well, pretty much in all the films I make, you'll see people from Grotesque.
Do you know why you're here, Aurora?
I know the basic details you sent. Prepared my questions based on your suggestions. Do you want to see them?
That won't be necessary.
That's Dan McDougall. He's an actor from Calgary, and he was great to come up all the way here to Edmonton just for this one day. It's funny too because he shot his part, and then we were shooting some other stuff, and he'd already headed home for the long drive back to Calgary, when all of a sudden we realized we missed something. We missed some shot or a line of dialogue or something, and we're like, oh shit, like he already left. So we had to call him and hate to ask you to do this, Dan, but do you mind coming back? And he was like, oh yeah, no problem. So he turned around, came all the way back to, for another 5 minutes just to record one little bit of dialogue or something. So yeah, that was great of him to do that.
Sorry.
And we filmed this at Grant MacEwan University in Edmonton.
Research in robotics and AI has surpassed all others. We're at the point of showing off what we've been working on all these years. Our mission has been to create an artificial human that is indistinguishable from an organic one. That's where you come in. We have 2 subjects. One, a robot, our creation. The other, a human.
I have to guess which one is which.
Exactly. We want to see if an average person can tell the difference.
So this story, it's not really entirely original. There's been other films kind of dealing with this subject matter. I just kind of wanted something that would be simple enough that I could do with just like a couple of actors, basically. And it was, it was still fun to do, but it wasn't exactly groundbreaking. Sci-fi is generally not my area of expertise. It's not my favorite genre, but so this was it was just my attempt at doing something different.
You'll be given 5 minutes with each subject. When you're finished, Dr. Beckett will bring you back here, and you'll tell me your discoveries.
All right, here we have Greg, who was, you might recognize him, he was in Grotesque. There's a very quick shot where Mildred gets into a cab, and he played the cab driver. His name is Greg Sebuluk, although I called him Cebuliak, which I think kind of sounds cooler, but apparently it's not his name. He was one of my co-producer, Julie Whalen, she's a personal trainer, and he was one of her clients, I believe, so that's how we got to meet him.
So, is this some kind of practical joke?
No, at least I don't think so.
The ad was kind of vague.
I can't tell you the details. I'm just going to ask you a few questions.
here we have Alia Ezzera. Funny enough, this is the only time I ever worked with her. I'm not sure why. Like, she was very good in this, and she was like super awesome to work with. I can't remember how how she came to be in this, because usually I kind of work with the same team, but somehow we found her, and I think she might be from Calgary too, but she came up for this short film, and I've never worked with her since. But her name does come up, like, discussing casting for other projects, so hopefully I'll get to work with her again someday soon.
They said they couldn't tell me what I'm doing here, so I'm guessing there's no point in asking you, is there?
Not really.
Whatever. I'm just here for the $50.
So I'm just gonna ask you a couple questions. What is your favorite type of music?
I listen to all kinds.
Rock.
So I can't really remember what I was going for when I was writing this. Like, obviously the point of the story is like, well, how would an artificial intelligence answer basic questions compared to a human? And I don't think there's really any answer, because obviously every human would answer it differently, and possibly every artificial intelligence would answer it differently. But it kind of just makes you think, like, hearing their answers and trying to think whether or not a robot would say that or a human. I don't know. It's one of those things where I didn't want there to be like I didn't really want to make a point with it. I was kind of just trying to show, here's a story, make of it what you will, kind of thing. Because you never know, like, what. It's like, oh, I guess there's some sort of theme in there. It's like, well, what makes us human? And I guess it's like, well, you could have as bizarre of answers to things as you want, because people believe all sorts of crazy things. Doesn't necessarily mean you're human or not human. It just means that you're different and can think for yourself.
What tastes better, chicken or electricity?
Chicken.
Electricity isn't food.
And again, it's like, yeah, both those answers are obviously correct. It's just two different ways of looking at it. And basically, like, she's meaner. Like, she's clearly not happy to be here, whereas Greg's character is kind of, I don't want to be mean, but he seems kind of dumber, but happier. She seems kind of smarter, but kind of more jaded.
What is love?
A chemical reaction in the brain.
I don't know.
Answer this riddle. If you have me, you want to share me. If you share me, you don't have me.
And yeah, I'm not clever enough to come up with riddles like this. I think I just Googled a list of riddles and then found one that worked for the story.
What am I?
I don't know. Love?
A secret.
That's dumb.
If you have me, you want to share me. If you share me, you don't have me. What am I?
It's kind of, she's obviously smarter and is really trying to think of what the answer could be. Whereas Greg's character is not as smart, but he was just willing to come up with something, to at least take a guess, even if it was completely wrong.
I think there should be a time limit.
Okay, fine. I give up. What is it?
A secret. Finish this simple story. A woman comes home from the store and finds a man in her house. What happens next?
She was relieved when she realized it was her father.
The man strangles her. She was his third victim.
So clearly, Alia there is a horror fan. But Elizabeth's character here, she seems a little bit terrified that that's the first thing that she would think of.
Last question. Are humans good or evil?
Evil.
And she probably just says that because, I don't know, I think she's evil herself. She's just projecting it onto the human race.
Some people are good, some evil.
Pick one.
I can't. Both answers would be wrong.
And that's the smartest thing he said so far.
How did it go?
Good, I got some interesting answers.
Aurora, why didn't you ask each one directly if they were a robot?
Well, they probably would have lied.
So what is your conclusion? Which one is a robot?
It's hard to tell. They both act and look just so human. I hope the man is the robot. I'd hate to think a sentient artificial intelligence would consider love nothing but a chemical reaction, immediately think of violence in a proposed situation, and consider the human race inherently evil.
Your job is to tell us which one is a robot, not which one you want to be a robot.
The woman is the robot. Am I right?
No.
So the man is? Good.
No.
Now, as for this, alleged surprise here, I never really intended it to be that big of like a twist, because I figured everyone would figure out the story from the minute the doctor guy says you have to figure out which one's a robot. Obviously, the twist is going to be that she's the robot. I was kind of thinking, I even debated when I was writing it that maybe they're all robots, like at least these three, and it's some sort of study on whether a robot can kind of figure out who's human, who's robot. There was something like that I didn't want to figure it out too much. I didn't want to plan it out too much, because no matter what the twist was, like, people would figure it out. I included this short film in the Ezzera and Gore Girl horror anthology, which is like a feature-length movie made up of all my short horror films. That one's available on Tubi, and it's also on this YouTube channel. And in the wraparound story for that, I have Ezzera Eve kind of poke fun at people that think they comment on the video that they figured it out right away. So I kind of had her, she's like, bravo, and she claps. It's kind of like, yeah, like everyone's obviously going to figure it out. It's not really the point of the story to have this shocking twist, because people have seen enough movies before that they're going to figure it out.
How rough.
I was going to have like some kind of zzz sound there, but I figured it was too cheesy, so I cut it. And the shot here of the little microchip thing being taken out of her head, we filmed this like on a different day. I think it was like months later or something. Basically in my bedroom while we were filming. I think it was the first I'm Haunted. We were filming that, and I was like, okay, well, we have Elizabeth here, so we had our makeup artist come down and paint a little skin patch there that we shoved that little thing behind and then removed. And then we had to zoom in enough that you couldn't tell that this was clearly in a different room. And that's Cami Norbaum there on the right. She was Doris Ennis in the first Grotesque movie. The friend who used to bully Mildred, and then Mildred stabs her outside the school.
Bring this to Peter. Tell him we'll be ready in an hour.
What do you want to do with it?
Take it to the cleaners.
Kind of like how you can see the Canadian flag flapping in the wind there, and the reflection of that door.
Then have R&D pick it up.
So this was the library at Grant McEwen that you can see in the background there. And this was, like, Grant McEwen's a great spot. Like, it just looks cool, especially for a futuristic kind of thing like this. So for this little room here, I walked around to the second floor, and you can stand on the balcony and then shoot down into this room. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing in the newspaper or something there was a bigger Hollywood production. They were some sort of future sci-fi movie, and they were filming at Grant McEwen just because it's such a nice looking location. Yeah, so that's our cast. I like to give people like Susan and Bill, I give them names even if they're not mentioned in the story. Yeah, and Christian Richmond, he was the director of photography on this. And yeah, a lot of these, Christina Bolsey, that's who our makeup artist was for this. This is kind of a period where we were going through several makeup artists before we found Jamie Clark, who's our newest one. Yeah, and that's it. That's I Am Not a Robot. It's a short film. Yeah, I like making short films sometimes because they don't take as much of an investment in time and money and energy, and it's fun just to get out and shoot something. And that's why I ended up doing the Ezzera and Gore Girl horror anthology, because over the years we shot so many short films that it's like, hey, if you put them all together, it's like an hour long. It's like an hour long worth of content. So I was like, well, what if we just shoot like a wraparound story to show in between them, and then turn it into a movie and kind of bring it to a new audience. So anyways, hope you liked the movie, and I'll see everyone later. Bye.